Let's consider the experiment where we toss a fair coin 3 times. So we're going to construct a tree diagram and then use that to list our outcomes and then find the probability we get 2 heads in a row. So right now a tree diagram helps us to list the outcomes. Later on in this chapter we'll learn about how to find how many outcomes we have without having to list them all. So first thing we want to do here is think about the 2 outcomes that we have. So the first toss that we have, we can either get a tails or we can get heads. And then from that, our second toss will either get tails or heads. And then our third toss, tails or heads. I'm just writing those out here. Right. So now that I've drawn out a tree diagram, so there's my first toss, and then the second toss is splits off that, and the third toss. So I can use this to list the outcomes in our sample space. So here's our sample space, and we're going to list our outcomes here. So the first outcome we have here is we have tails, tails, tails. And then the next outcome that we have here, we would have tails, tails, heads. And then tails, heads, tails. And then we would have tails, heads, heads. So we just keep moving in that fashion. So down here we have heads, tails, tails, heads, tails, heads, 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 tails, and then 3 heads in a row. So that would be our sample space there. So part C, we want to know our probability that we will get 2 heads in a row. So write down the probability of 2 heads in a row. So that's the number of 2 heads in a row over the number in our sample space here. So we know that we have 8 outcomes, and the number of 2 heads in a row, let's go through and mark those. So we have 2 heads in a row. So we have that here and here, and this one also counts as 3 in a row, but 2 is sufficient here, so we have 3 of those, right? And then we can look at the decimal approximation again. So that fraction doesn't reduce, and this one actually comes out nicely. So this is 0.375 there.